Welcome to Fourth Down Fantasy, a safe space where you can complain about your fantasy teams that have probably been ravaged by injuries quite a bit at this point. This was probably the most brutal injury week I've seen in my entire fantasy football career, and I'm seeing from people who have played it a lot longer than me that it's probably the most brutal single injury week in fantasy football history. Now, what does that mean? That means that a lot of you are dealing with pretty bad injuries, but it also means that there's a lot of new guys on waivers and on your free agent wires that are probably going to carry some value, whether it's either in the short term or potentially for the rest of the season. So what I wanted to do in this video is break down my 3 favorite additions that have gained value as a result of these injuries, as well as touch on a couple guys that I'm not so high on that other people might be. So let's get right into it. My favorite ad of the week is Panthers running back Mike Davis. Now, we all know Christian McCaffrey is out at least for a few weeks. I believe the timetable is 4 to 6. Christian McCaffrey himself has said he wants to try and come back a little bit earlier, potentially. He said he takes that timetable as a challenge. But I think it's safe to say Mike Davis is probably going to be the Panthers running back for at least 3 weeks. And let's just break him down a little bit. Well, the only depth on the Panthers right now for running back is Trenton Cannon. He's the only other guy that was behind McCaffrey and Mike Davis. And they have Reggie Bonifant on their practice squad, who I would imagine they will bring up and have active this Sunday. So not a ton of competition there. It seems like Mike Davis is probably going to get most of the touches. He'll have this backfield somewhat to himself. Last week, 1 carry for 1 yard for Davis, 8 receptions, 74 yards. Now, this is largely likely due to the game script, because I know that 1 carry, 1 yard doesn't sound ideal, obviously, in the rushing department. But the Panthers were down 21-0. He should be okay rushing-wise going forward. This game script just, dictated a lot of passing, hence the 8 catches for 74 yards, which, I mean, in the receiving game, that's an awesome workload for Davis. Even if he only gave you that, he becomes a really worthwhile flex, especially in PPR leagues, but he's not only going to give you that. He'll definitely give you some rushing volume. They don't have anybody else. Now let's take a look at Davis's career before the Panthers. Now his Bears stint right before this was kind of a wash. It just didn't really work out. But in 2 games filling in for Chris Carson with the Seahawks in 2018, Davis was also competing with Rashad Penny for touches. Penny was sort of still the shiny new toy back then. They still wanted to see what they had in him. And they just hadn't really figured out that Penny's not a very good running back. I think they've sort of figured that out now, but that's besides the point. So he was splitting touches, and he was still very, very productive. So versus the Cardinals on September 30th, 2018, Davis had 21 carries for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. He also had 4 receptions for 23 yards. The other game that he started, he had 11 carries for 58 yards and 4 receptions for 22 yards and a touchdown. So his 2 starts that he's had really where he's gotten, a legitimate chance, he was extremely productive, and now he's got a chance on the Panthers, a team that loves to throw to running backs again. I think you're looking at a guy who could be very productive for you at the very least as a flex for a few weeks, if not, sort of a mid-tier RB2. My second favorite claim of the week is 49ers running back Jeff Wilson Jr. So on Sunday, we saw not 1, but 2 49ers running backs go down with injury. Both Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman, the 1 and 2 sort of in the pecking order, at least for early down touches, both went down with injuries. We don't know exactly how long they're both going to be out. Mostert's injury doesn't sound too serious, but he has all but been ruled out for this Sunday. And Coleman is a little bit murkier. Either way, we know that this backfield is open for touches this Sunday, potentially for a few more weeks after this. Why do I like Wilson? Wilson was a touchdown vulture in 2019. In the 2nd and 3rd games of the 49ers season, he had virtually no yardage, but he did score 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Against the Bengals in Week 2, the 49ers had 259 rushing yards. Now, Wilson only had 34 of those, but he had 2 touchdowns. And then in Week 3 against the Steelers, the 49ers had 168 rushing yards. Wilson only had 18, but again had 2 touchdowns. So obviously, we at least know he's great at racking up touchdowns. He's good on the goal line, but relatively unproven in the yardage department. He's only started 2 games in his career, both of those in 2018, and one of them he had 23 carries for 90 yards, those 90 yards being his career high, and the other he had 3 carries for 9 yards while Alfred Morris ran wild. We could probably disregard that one. Morris is Morris. This was a Week 17 game, sort of went against all conventional wisdom. Clearly, Wilson is not the most proven guy in racking up yardage, but this is going to be his biggest opportunity yet. As a proven touchdown threat and the strongest candidate for early down work on the 49ers now, Wilson is a good bet for production for as long as he's the lead dog. Whether that's 1 week, whether that's 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, who knows? Either way, if you're looking for a guy to start this week, Wilson's your guy. And if you're looking for sort of maybe a lottery ticket or a guy who could pay off for a month or so, Wilson's also your guy. Sticking in the same backfield, my third favorite target on waivers now is Jerick McKinnon. Now, Jerick McKinnon is a little bit higher percentage owned than both Davis and Jeff Wilson. Davis on ESPN League's 2.7% owned, which confuses me a little bit because you would think more McCaffrey owners would have handcuffed with Davis since he's really the only depth in that backfield. And Jeff Wilson's 0.2% owned. Now, McKinnon, after being fairly productive the first 2 weeks of this season, has gotten a little bit of steam. Still only 26% owned on ESPN, though, so there's a good chance he's available in your league. So why do I like McKinnon? Well, there's still plenty of work to go around in the 49ers run game, even with Wilson presumably taking early down work. We've already seen McKinnon prove as much, considering he's been getting third down work, and he's been productive with both Mostert and Coleman healthy the first 2 weeks. And he's a big play threat. Last week, 3 carries for 77 yards, anchored by a 55-yard run. And he's the preferred option in PPR leagues over Wilson. Now, McKinnon didn't have any receptions this past week, but the week before he did have 3 receptions for 20 yards and a touchdown. Jeff Wilson Jr. only has 15 receptions in his entire career, so clearly McKinnon's going to be the guy if the 49ers are trailing or if they're calling up a third down play. Now, the one wild card for both of these guys is undrafted free agent rookie running back JaMycal Hasty. As of now, there's no indication that Hasty's going to take any work from either of these guys, but he is on the practice squad. He did get a good amount of preseason camp hype. They may mix in some touches for Hasty here and there if he's active on Sunday. I assume he will be if they don't sign anybody else at running back. But not anything to worry about, but just something to keep your eye on. And, you know, if these injuries to Mostert and Coleman are more long-term, maybe Hasty gets a longer look. But as a rookie, as an undrafted free agent rookie, I'm not worried about him yet. Just a guy that could get a handful of touches. Now let me touch on potentially the biggest running back injury, well, no, definitely the biggest running back injury of the week, and that is the torn ACL season ender for Saquon Barkley. Devastating injury, incredible talent. I hate to see that for him, but of course what fantasy managers' minds immediately go to is what can I do to replace him, and is there an in-house solution in terms of the Giants' backfield? Well, we know Devonta Freeman signed there today, and they have Wayne Gallman and Dion Lewis already on the roster. Gallman had been inactive the first 2 weeks, but Gallman is more of the early down guy, so now with Saquon out, he'll probably be active, but we'll see. Maybe they'll go to Devonta right away. I don't know. Point is, I'm staying away from this backfield altogether. If Saquon Barkley was consistently getting stuffed behind the line, struggling to even gain positive yardage, I'm not trusting Devonta Freeman, Wayne Gallman, nor Dion Lewis to be any better. And people are going to go off of Devonta Freeman's name value, and I understand that. Devonta Freeman does have a fairly clear path to the early down work here as he picks up the offense. I think Gallman might get it this week, maybe a little bit next week as well. And Dion Lewis obviously going to be the third down guy. But it feels like fool's gold to me. I don't want to touch this backfield. If you really have nobody at the end of your bench and you're just looking for absolute lottery ticket flyers, maybe Devonta captures what he had, you know, back a few years ago. But as far as last year, if you check Devonta Freeman's game logs, he barely went over 50 rushing yards. He was like just over 50 rushing yards in a lot of his games. He just doesn't have a lot left in the tank. There's a reason he's been on the market this long. I don't expect a resurgence from him. What I expect from the Giants the rest of this year is a lot of passing, and maybe that will make Dion Lewis somewhat viable, at least in PPR leagues. But I just wouldn't go chasing the value here. I know it's tempting when a workhorse back goes down. You want to see if, you know, another guy's going to step in and be that workhorse. Just really, I doubt it here. And I would say if any of, you know, Davis, Wilson, McKinnon are available in your leagues, definitely prioritize them over anyone in the Giants backfield. And if you're truly desperate, then maybe dip in there in the Giants backfield. But otherwise, I would stay away. And finally, the last name that sort of popped up is Darrell Henderson. Now, he was very, very productive this Sunday, and partly due to both of his backfield mates getting injured throughout the game. Malcolm Brown suffering a finger injury and Cam Akers suffering a rib injury. The thing is, neither of these injuries seem to be likely to keep these guys out long term. Malcolm Brown is likely to be healthy for Sunday. Cam Akers is still sort of TBD. Henderson is the only guy in this backfield that's under 90% owned. So, yeah, Akers and Brown are both over 90% owned on ESPN leagues. Henderson's right around 45%. So I understand if you want to, you know, take the flyer on Henderson, hope that he maintains his role as the lead dog even with the other guys healthy. I just don't love the opportunity as much as I love it with Davis and Wilson and McKinnon in the short to intermediate term. Henderson, I think, is going to sort of alternate with these guys for, you know, those blow up weeks and weeks that they're actually worth your time as flex plays or, you know, plug and plays. I don't mind Henderson as a flyer at all. I think he's a way better option than, like I said, guys like Devonta Freeman and Wayne Gallman. It's just not a guy that I would attach myself to his performance this past Sunday where he went over 100 yards with a touchdown. I would say temper your expectations, maybe have him a little bit lower on your waiver priority, but still don't keep him off your radar entirely. But yeah, let's hope the injuries slow down or, you know, just stop altogether. It sucks seeing this great talent go down, and it makes it hell for fantasy owners too. So good luck this week, guys. Hit me up with any questions. As always, hit me up on Twitter, hit me up here. I'm happy to help. I'm enjoying that fantasy football seems to be going pretty smoothly in terms of the actual NFL season going smoothly. No COVID complications yet, so let's keep that going. Again, guys, good luck this week. I'll see you next time.